everyone, and today we are going to learn how to play chess. So before starting, please like and subscribe to our channel so I will make more videos and you will become a very good player. So let's start. First you learn how to set up the board. So let's start setting up the board. Look on the second row we put the pawns, and just like this we have put the pawns, and now we are going to this rank behind the pawns where we put the follows. So we put the rooks on the corners here, and then we go inward. We put the knights right next to the rooks, and yes, this is a knight and not a horse. And now we're gonna put our bishops right next to the knights, and now we're gonna put the king and queen on the board. Does they matter where they go? Yes. Always remember the queen goes on a magic color. That means the white queen goes on the white square and the black queen goes on the black square. And then we put the king on the remaining square. And the board is set up correctly, then you're ready to play. So let's start with our easiest piece, which is the rook. The rook moves in a plus pattern just like this. The rook captures very easily. Let's say there's an enemy pawn right here, then the rook can easily capture it where the pawn was, and then it replaces it off the board. And that's how the rook captures. Now you learn our second piece, which is our bishop. The bishop moves in a diagonal variation. It can move anywhere it wants, but only on diagonals. So, and this is called a light squared bishop because it can only move on light squares. And this is a dark squared bishop. And if the bishops are right next to each other, something like this, then they can control a lot of squares, and then if a king is here, it will be trapped in this bishop box because the bishop control all the squares here. Since now the king is trapped here by these two bishops only, and that's how the bishop move. And now you'll learn our most powerful and important piece, which is the queen. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board, and she is the most important. She is right top on your friend's capturing list. So, because the queen is very powerful and she can move like the rook and bishop, so she control a lot of squares, and she can only control a lot of squares only when she is not blocked. If all these sides are blocked for the queen will be trapped and she cannot move anywhere. Let's say we had these white pawns all over there, right here, right? So the queen cannot escape because all these pawns are blocking her. So that's why. And you cannot capture your own pieces or jump over them like this. So you have to move them, and then you can free your queen. Or your opponent can capture them, and then your queen is again freed. So that is the queen, and now we will learn our most fun piece. But before it, let's learn some of the files and rank. Look, each column on the board is called a file, and each row is called a rank. A to H are the files, and 1 to 8 are ranks. And H1 8 files and ranks, these ones are called edges because they're right edge. So, and inside here, the middle, it is called the middle. So, if only like, let's say let's say that I have my queen here, and she's not that much active because look, she cannot control that much squares because the piece on the edge controls not that much squares. It controls like only a half. So now we will learn our most fun piece, which is our knight. One thing, a knight moves something like in this direction and controls like the rook, but it goes like something like these, and captures like that. But no, that's not the knight captures. I was not taking about it. So actually, a knight moves. Since a knight can jump over pieces like a horse, a knight actually moves in an L shape, moving two squares at one, except diagonal, and then come here. And that's how the knight moves. So the knight cannot move however you want. The knight controls about 8 total squares. So these are all the squares the knight can control. But if the knight is in the corner, then it can only control 2 squares. If it's like in these sides, it controls only 4 squares. So yeah, a piece in the edge or a corner controls less squares. So that's how the knight moves. And now we will learn our most important piece, which is our king. The king is not powerful like the queen, but it is still the most important, and the king can move any direction but only one time. Let's say that the king and queen are having a race. So the queen already got to the edge and the king just take more moves to take. It took so many moves. It took 7 moves to reach to the edge, and the queen just took 1 move to go back, and the king took a lot of more moves. So because it can only move one time, it cannot go like the queen. It can only move 1 square at a time. So the king is very slow. But the king also has a very special rule. But before it, so now let's learn. The move is called this. So let's also put the enemy king first. It's called castling. Castling means getting your king to safety. Here, if your rook and king are not moved, you can castle like this. And here will be some pawns here to protect your king. So first let's learn the pawns and then we will learn castling. So let's learn the pawns. So we took out all the pieces. Now let's put the pawns first. As you see, we have placed the pawns, and I have placed white's king in a different way so that white can move first. So pawns were only allowed first to move 1 square only. Something like this. But now they can actually move 2 squares instead of 1. They can now move 2 squares but only on their starting position. Let's say I have a pawn right here and black moves this pawn 1 square also. Then now my pawn can now only move 1 square, as also black this pawn can only move 1 square. Now let's say white played this pawn 2 squares and black also moved 2 squares. You might think now that this white pawn can capture this black pawn. But no, he cannot. So the pawns actually capture in a front diagonal variation and they cannot capture in front of them. But now this pawn is stuck and has no moves or captures. He is stuck there. But if a pawn is like here, then it can move out of the pawn's way, and then it get back free. Let's say white moved this pawn 2 squares and this pawn also. Now this pawn can capture it. So now you have learned how the pawns capture and move. Then but actually pawns actually never move backwards. They never move backward. They only move upwards only. So what will happen if these white pawns always get to this rank, or any of these black pawns get to the first rank? What is something called is pawn promotion, and I will tell you pawn promotion. Let us just wait. So pawn promotion means promoting the pawn into a queen, rook, knight, or a bishop. And if it goes to the 8th rank or the first rank for black pawns and the white pawn for the 8th rank, it cannot just stay a pawn. If you want that pawn to stay like that, you cannot promote if you want, but you can get a powerful queen by promoting the pawn. And then because she is the most powerful, and you can easily win this game. So yeah, you can even promote into a rook or a knight and a bishop. So that is pawn promotion. And now we will learn something special. The king also has a special power, which is called castling. So let's just wait for a while for the castling scene. So to castle, your king moves 2 squares towards the safety and the rook goes right to the action. And this is called Kingside Castle. And these are the pawns which protect your king. And now your king is much more safe. So this is called Kingside Castle. And this is called Queenside Castle. You see, look, the black king has to move 3 squares to get the same position as white. But the king only moves 2 squares to castle. So this is the long castle, which is called Queenside Castle. And then now you have your king safe, and now that's a much better idea. Now let's learn what will happen if the king gets in danger. Let's check that. So for the king getting danger, the attacking player must say check. That means the other side is threatening to get the other side's king. Let's say white plays this. Now the black king is in now check because it is being attacked by the queen. Look, and there are 3 easy ways to get out of check. You can first move into a safe square where your king is no longer in check, which is the simplest. These all squares the king can go because they are safe. The king cannot go here because the queen still controls it. And the king is right now still in check. So all these squares are safe. And the second way to get out of check is to block. A block means to put a piece right next to the checking piece and the king. So let's get a piece from into here. say that white wants to check the king, so he plays this. Now so first your king can move to a safe square, right? All these squares are safe for the king to move. And another one is to block, means like block this, like black has this bishop, so you can block the check like this. And the best one to get out a check is to capture the checking piece. Look, white didn't realize that the bishop is controlling the square, so his queen is gone. So that's how you get out a check, and these are the only 3 ways to get out a check. And now let's see what will happen if your king is in check and cannot get out a check by moving, blocking or capturing. So let's say white plays queen g1. Black is checkmate because look. So look, let's analyze. Look, this 7th rank is guarded by the rook, so the king cannot escape. And the queen is controlling these squares, so the king cannot move here. So the king has no safe squares to go. And the bishop and this bishop right here cannot help the king because it cannot block. Because look, this is a dark squared bishop. But if we need the bishop to be right there so that it can block the check. But instead, the bishop was right here, so the bishop cannot help. And also the bishop cannot capture the queen because she is on a light square. This square is still being controlled, but the queen just moved there, so the bishop cannot capture it. So that is checkmate, and that means you win the game. And now let's learn the special pawn rule, which is called en passant, and then you're ready to play chess. And then we will learn some other draws. Look, if a pawn moves, you know that if a pawn is right in the range, they can capture it. But let's say black moved it 2 squares, trying to not let this pawn to capture this black pawn. So the en passant rule means we still have the option to capture the pawn. And there are still some rules of en passant. The pawn just moved 1 square and white doesn't capture, and then this white cannot play en passant because black moved it 1 square instead of 2 squares. And let's say black moved it 2 squares and white doesn't want to capture because he thinks that he still has the option. So he played waiting move, and after black moves, white cannot go and play en passant because you had to do it on the very next turn. So now let's learn our last one, which are draws. Draws can also happen. Let's say black played this here, and now it is a draw by stalemate. Stalemate means your king is not in check, but you have no other legal moves on the board. Look, white king is in the corner and it can only move 3 squares, but the black queen guards them, and he has no other piece to move. So this is a draw by stalemate. And now there's some other draws like 50 move rule. 50 move rule basically means that you are moving pieces but not made it any pawn moves or captures, and both players have made it 50 moves each. So it's a draw because now you will move your rooks forever, and you don't have any pawns to move to restart the 50 moves, and no captures. So this is a draw by 50 move rule. The game can be also be drawn by infinite material. If it's a king versus a knight versus a king, it's a draw. If it's a pawn, if it's a bishop and a king versus a king, it's a draw. And if they are kings only, it's also a draw. The game can also be drawn by 3-4 repetition. Let's play white plays this. The second position same. And if I happens one more time, like this, the game is drawn by 3-4 repetition. And that's all for today. Hope you like this video. If you like, please like and subscribe. Bye bye.